For Honorable Speaker, I'm really hoping that the committee is listening to this and that they will take into consideration to ensure
Honorable Member for Seme, Honorable James Nyikal.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for this opportunity. Madam Speaker, I arise to support this report because, Madam Speaker, this report, the petition was based on a very competent view that when the National Transport and Safety Authority was making the regulations for transport network companies, owners, drivers, and passengers, regulations of 2022, they actually excluded motorcycle riders. And on the basis of only that, they did not or were not able to engage them during the served. Over the period, they realized that the sector has grown, and it is not only motorcycle riders now. There are three-wheeled riders, there are bicycles, and there are even pedestrians who actually have been involved, particularly in courier services. So that we then have left out a very huge aspect. And if you look at courier services, I don't think there's any that actually is doing more work, volume of work, than the motorcycle riders. And again, it has now been realized that it is actually now the most digitized sector. And because of that, they are being digitized. The Kenya Revenue Authority has actually received so much revenue, up to 15 billion in the year 24,000. People who bring an industry that brings that much revenue should never really be ignored or left out. So, Madam Speaker, having looked at those, then you look at the recommendations. I actually support the recommendations arising from the observations and even what we see ourselves. They said that it is now the Cabinet Secretary for Ministry of Roads and Transport to revise the regulations. It goes without saying.
Kubetika ni kupendwa ndani ya Tanzania. Betika, chaguo la mabingwa.
The regulations, they revise them. They need to do an impact assessment on what they are proposing. Something that we often ignore when we are making policy changes. The impact it will have on the industry, the impact it will have even the traffic in town. So again, that is extremely important. And then when now we're talking a very digitized industry, then we must look at the issue of data protection. So again, it is important that if we get now them in the regulatory framework and we accept that they are digitized, then we must go for data protection that will protect of them, the people who are using it, the operators themselves. So that is extremely, because when you go into this digitized industry and you give your information, you give so much information, you are not even sure where it is reaching, what it will be used for. So I think that is actually very, very important. Then it is also important that there are a lot of these industries that actually are run from people from outside. It is important that they have local presence. It is possible in the digitized industry to actually run a whole industry without even an office in the country. I think that is something we must avoid. So that, with that, Madam Speaker, I support this report. Thank you.
Okay, honorable members, I can see that there's no one who has pressed the intervention button. So, honorable member for Kwanza, you wanted to contribute? You may proceed then. Any member who wants to contribute, please press the intervention button.
Madam Speaker, thank you very much for giving me the opportunity. And much as I haven't read so much the report on this, but given that this particular sector actually is one of the biggest sector in the economy of this country, there's a huge population that actually are on this border issue, and therefore I think also, as the last speaker has just spoken, we have to have at least headquarters for border so that people to know just how much money you can be able to, how much revenue you can be able to get from this particular sector for the benefit of our country, and therefore be able to have to recognize this particular sector so that it can be able to at least whoever is participating in it actually participate positively on the same thing. Secondly, given that it's a sector that actually gives the best services in this country, again, we should have the regulation that can be able to guard this particular sector, because as it is, Madam Speaker, border is just a hazard. Anybody, even you and me, can be border out there, can be from here, you can be able to do whatever they can do. But I think let's have at least this sector legalized so that whoever gets involved actually is actually registered. We know who is from where, so that can be able to stress, if there's anything else, you can trace the actor on the same thing. Because what happened is that border you have an accident that they have caused and they disappear. You can't even get them. And therefore, I think it's only good that we'll be able to, when somebody buys a motorcycle, whatever it is, he is actually registered, so that can be able to know exactly where he's operating from. And if anything happens, as it happens every other day, you can be able to trace this particular individual and be able to do whatever act, either for reward or whatever it is. So given that kind of thing, the Speaker, I think this is important that we actually register and legalize this particular operation, which is not. I've had a time to go to Pakistan, and Madam Speaker, in Pakistan, they are more than anybody else, because tuk-tuk, you see that one, plus motorcycles are all over the place, and they give a very good service. In fact, I think we should go to do benchmarking in Pakistan to be able to know that this particular sector is one of the best sectors in that particular area. I think I didn't go to China, to India, but Pakistan, I think when I went there, I saw they are very organized. And when it comes to delivery of services, they are very good, and they are because they are registered. You trust somebody comes to you and is supposed to deliver maybe some parcels, whatever, or food, what have you, you will be able to give this particular person because he's actually registered. Here they are not. I want to be told whether they're registered or not, and that's one thing that, Madam Speaker, if we don't do that, then we are not actually developing our country. And therefore the economy will be at least, as somebody mentioned, will be actually be going a step up. The other thing is security for this particular one. And Madam Speaker, again, if we don't register this particular individuals operating in this sector, you will see a lot of things that are happening out there, particularly the insecurity and security, because some facts use them to do odd things which are not actually good. And therefore, I think the best thing, again, we do is to pass this particular report, confirm it, and have it actually have the people who are in that particular sector recognized and registered for security reasons. With those few remarks, I support this report.
The Honourable Member for Limuru, Honourable John Kiragu.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I like to support this petition by the Digital Border Drivers Association. It is a very important petition because it addresses very key issues that affect the riders. One, they are seeking legal recognition. We know that it is an industry that is thriving, but for unknown reason, they were omitted when we were recognizing the others who are in the same business. Madam Speaker, these people are the ones that used to deliver various items, including food deliveries. And one of the key things that comes out of this petition is that the transport network companies, there is a mix-up as whether these people are independent contractors providing this service or they are employees of these network companies. You will find that, and it is clear in the petition, that there are times when the riders are given pricing. Sometimes this pricing includes some discounts which the networks have already given the clients. And when they are providing this service, sometimes they wonder whether they are independent or they are employees. And if they are employees, then they should be protected as employees. Madam Speaker, this unfair treatment is one that the petitioners are asking for us to address. And Madam Speaker, the other problem that we have here is that these transport network companies, even if you wanted to reach out to them, they don't have local contacts. There is no telephone number or contact number where you can call locally. Madam Speaker, you are forced to call overseas if you have to complain. It's something that we have to look at because nobody should be doing a business here in this country if that entity is not registered here. Madam Speaker, it's a petition, and I think it's important that we help them to make sure that the industry is properly regulated, that that recognition is provided, and above all, Madam Speaker, the people who are in this industry and they are using digital data, it's important that this data is protected, and particularly for those people who are providing that service. You can imagine sometimes when that data is given or glanced into people who are not lawful, it becomes a security problem for the people who are in this sector. Madam Speaker, I think we cannot ignore these petitioners. These are people who are already contributing to the economy of this country. They are all asking whether they are three-legged vehicles or two-legged. They are people who are actually providing the delivery or the transport service. So they should not be discriminated just because that they use other modes of transport that are not known as major transport vehicles. So, Madam Speaker, I support the recommendations that have been provided here, and the ministries that are referred, they should do their part so that we make sure that we relieve the pressure that is with this border drivers association. I support. Thank you.
Okay, the Honourable Member for Suba North, Honourable Millie Odhiambo.
You announced.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I do wish to support the motion.
Monsieur le Président, bonjour.
Bonjour Madame Nyeri. Je vous souhaite la plus cordiale des bienvenues à l'Épreuxville au Gabon avec le groupe TV5. ici au Palais Rénovation.
Et merci.
Le Gabon,
Merci.
terre d'accueil et terre d'hospitalité.
Merci d'accorder votre premier entretien à une chaîne internationale depuis votre prise de pouvoir à TV5 Monde. Nous sommes à quelques jours de la présidentielle du 12 avril, une étape clé qui va marquer la fin de la transition ici au Gabon, que vous avez dirigée depuis août 2023. Vous êtes arrivé au pouvoir après un coup d'État qui a mis fin à 56 ans de règne de la famille Bongo. Si vous deviez dresser un premier bilan de votre gestion de la transition, quel serait-il?
Merci, Madame Lydia. Avant d'aller tout droit dans votre réponse, je voudrais d'abord rendre hommage à Dieu et aux mains de nos ancêtres qui nous ont permis de réaliser ce coup de la libération sans effusion de sang. Aussi, je voudrais remercier le peuple gabonais pour son soutien incommensurable depuis le 30 août 2023. Je les ai entendus, je les écoute et je ne saurais les décevoir. Pour ce qui est de la transition gabonaise et ce que vous appelez coup d'État chez vous, chez nous, c'est le coup de la libération. Nous ne sommes pas dans la chute des dynasties. Nous avons fait ce jour ce que le peuple gabonais attendait de son armée. Les élections biaisées, nous n'en voulons plus.
Et comment garantir alors la transparence de ce scrutin à venir?
La transparence de ce scrutin à venir se garantit dans le texte des lois. Nous avons révisité le fichier électoral. Nous avons refait un nouveau code électoral où les résultats de chaque bureau de vote seront comptés bureau de vote par bureau de vote. Et je pense que c'est ça, la transparence. Pour ce qui est de mon bilan, dans ces 18 mois de transition, nous avons restauré dans un premier temps nos institutions. Nous sommes allés au dialogue national. Nous avons fait un référendum. Depuis plus de 30 ans, il n'y a jamais eu de référendum dans ce pays. La Constitution était changée dans ce même palais présidentiel à l'encontre du peuple. Le oui n'a remporté au référendum 91,64%. Après le référendum, nous avons élaboré un nouveau code électoral avec de la procédure.
Il avait remis les documents nécessaires.
Je ne suis pas juge de la Cour constitutionnelle. Mais je peux vous dire une chose. Quand j'ai été commandant en chef de la garde républicaine, pendant les périodes de recrutement des soldats, il y en a qui se voyaient éliminés parce qu'ils n'avaient pas de pièce d'identité, parce qu'ils n'avaient pas de photo d'identité. Ça fait partie des procédures. Et les procédures, on les prépare à l'avance. C'est un peu dommage. Pour la 5e République que nous attendons de tous nos vœux, nous devons respecter la loi, les procédures. Et les décisions de la Cour constitutionnelle sont irrévocables. Elles ne m'appartiennent pas.
Lors de votre discours d'investiture, Monsieur le Président, vous aviez promis de remettre le pouvoir aux civils. N'avez-vous pas l'impression de trahir la confiance des Gabonais et votre parole du militaire?
Je n'ai trahi aucune confiance et je suis un homme de parole. C'est un civil aujourd'hui qui se présente devant vous. Et cette élection, il n'y a que des civils qui vont concourir à cette élection. Je n'ai trahi aucune parole.
Grâce à la mise en disposition.
Oui.
C'est ce qui est écrit dans la nouvelle Constitution.
Oui, et ça a été fait avec les règles de l'art.
Est-ce que ce n'est pas une pirouette?
Ce n'est pas une pirouette, ça a toujours existé. Le président Fomar Bongo Ndimba, il a été militaire avant d'être président. Et on a eu beaucoup de militaires qui ont appartenu au gouvernement. Je peux vous les citer.
En parlant de nouvelle Constitution, elle limite désormais le nombre de mandats présidentiels à 2, mais supprime aussi le poste de Premier ministre. Certains évoquent là une hyper-présidence. Que leur répondez-vous?
L'hyper-présidence, je ne le pense pas. Les Gabonais sont allés au dialogue national et ils ont choisi le régime présidentiel. Dans ce régime présidentiel, il y a un vice-président du gouvernement qui assure la coordination du gouvernement. Je ne vois pas l'hyper-présidentialité. De plus, les pouvoirs sont équilibrés dans ce régime. Moi, aujourd'hui, pour certains postes, à l'avenir, si je gagnais, bien sûr, le président doit s'adresser à l'Assemblée nationale pour pouvoir faire passer une nomination. Où est l'hyper-présidentialité? Laissez les mauvaises langues parler. Et nous faisons le droit et la démocratie.
Sur le plan économique, vous avez lancé de nombreux chantiers, des routes notamment, mais le Gabon connaît d'autres difficultés majeures depuis l'ère Bongo, en matière d'éducation, de santé, les délestages qui continuent. Comment comptez-vous faire dans ces domaines-là?
Alors il faut dire que nous avons hérité d'un passif lourd et que j'assume en tant que président de la transition. Pour le quotidien des Gabonais, après le 30 août 2023, nous avons remis les bourses pour les élèves. Nous avons procédé au dégel des recrutements de la fonction publique. Nous avons octroyé plus de 26 500 postes budgétaires, de jamais vus en 18 mois. Nous avons construit des écoles. C'est plus de 3000 salles de classe qui ont été construites sur l'ensemble du territoire national. Nous avons relancé le BTP. Nous avons relancé le secteur agricole. En gros, nous avons mis le pays en chantier. Et pour se réapproprier notre économie, nous avons payé à Sala Énergie. Aujourd'hui, le Gabon est producteur de 70 000 barils jour de son pétrole. Demain, nous allons payer la société Tulo Énergie. Et nous passerons à 82 000 barils jour. C'est dire que notre économie est en train d'avancer. Le chômage, il était à 35%. Nous l'avons réduit à 23%. Soit une diminution de 12% en 18 mois. Les efforts sont énormes. Et la liste est longue. Je ne peux pas vous citer tout ce que nous avons fait comme acte dans cette transition. Sinon, nous allons passer la journée ici.
Et comment financer tout cela alors que le pays reste endetté? On parle d'environ 7 milliards de francs CFA, même si vous avez remboursé vos